It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent fritters. Here's a look at the brand new Trick or Treat Studios Scream Greats Motel Hell Farmer Vincent. Trick or Treat Studios is proud to present the officially licensed Motel Hell Farmer Vincent action figures, part of their Scream Greats Series 1 collection. Scream Greats features iconic characters from some of our favorite cinematic masterpieces. Each highly detailed figure is in an 8-inch scale and be perfect for display in any collection. Farmer Vincent comes included with a chainsaw accessory packed on a backer card with plastic blister. Hey, meat's meat, and a man's got to eat. Before, of course, we get a closer look at Farmer Vincent from the 1980 film Motel Hell, I'd like to first thank the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios that did provide this sample of the brand new Scream Greats Motel Hell Farmer Vincent. We could have a look at this review. Both Farmer Vincent and the earlier looked at Michael Myers are available as of right now over on their site. I'll provide links down below if you guys are interested to check them out. Farmer Vincent, though, is a little bit taller than Michael from before. The figure actually, in fact, stands exactly 8 inches in height, or is 20 centimeters tall. And speaking of the shape, let's slide over Vincent and bring in the earlier looked at Michael Myers. Yes, comparing the two, you can see that Michael Myers isn't quite as tall as Farmer Vincent. He certainly isn't sporting a pig head either. Not only sporting a pig mask, but Farmer Vincent also comes included with his trusty chainsaw. While it doesn't look like the chainsaw necessarily has been using for cutting people down to size, it certainly does look like time has taken its toll on the chainsaw, rusting nicely the dark gunmetal gray on the front of the chainsaw. And while it doesn't look like there's a lot of rust anywhere on the rest of it, it does in fact kind of look like they've used slightly translucent crimson plastic to cast the back of it. It does have the little pull cord on the back for obvious reasons. You can't pull it, and does have a handle on the top and a handle on the back that he can then wield it with both his hands. A correction from the earlier looked at Michael Myers, where I did say that I had some struggle to actually rotate the wrist. Farmer Vincent, in fact, I can easily rotate the wrist. It just took a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. In fact, you can see easily how this hand rotates back and forth. Just because I'm doing it, though, on my figure, if you're having resistance on yours, heat it, though, first in hot water or a hairdryer. Just a few passes, just enough to soften up the plastic so that swiveling will be as easy as what I'm doing right now. If there's resistance, don't try to pull it, for the risk that you could start to strip the peg and break the hand off completely. But, though, you can take the chainsaw and you can put it in Farmer Vincent's hands. I find actually it's easier first to put it in this hand. The plastic, first of all, while I have heated this a little bit in preparation for this review, the plastic is still soft enough that I can easily manipulate it. Actually, to be honest, we'll talk a little bit more about the plastic also that they've used for these figures. I really am liking the plastic that they chose. You can see there's taken Farmer Vincent's hands and clasping onto either handles of both the chainsaw, and of course now you can have the figure displayed with this. Now you can also have the figure with his chainsaw waving higher. The only problem with, I've noticed for Farmer Vincent, if I can get his other hand just securely around it, the way they've actually posed the figure, see how he has one straight leg and he's got one knee bent slightly further forward. It does sort of lean the figure forward, and in some cases, you can see it kind of off balances him just a little bit, especially if you're putting the weight of a chainsaw in front of him. You'll be happy to know as well that, like the Michael Myers, they have also as well, Trick or Treat Studios that is, provided peg holes in the bottoms of his feet. Though he doesn't come included with the display stands, which is one thing I still wish that they could do for future Scream Greats, just giving us a generic black display stand that maybe in fact does have Scream Greats printed across the top of it. But it does use universally sized pegs, so you can easily just use a display stand with it. I might just end up doing that, just because, again, I don't want Farmer Vincent. You can see, like, there's just enough of a wiggle when you got the figure on display. And again, you're putting the chainsaw in front of him as well. That might just off-kelter him ever so slightly. Taking, though, the chainsaw and removing it from his hand for at least right now. Now, they chose smartly, I feel, to release Farmer Vincent with his pig mask on his head. Something, actually, that the character does walk around with at times in the movie. Now, they could have easily just given us Farmer Vincent with the likeness of the character underneath it, but I think more iconic is obviously the character being displayed here with the actual pig mask. And the pig mask nicely is sculpted here from Trick or Treat Studios, even adding the necessary blood on the front of its snout, and also the blood all across the side of the figure's face as well. The red also that they chose is a slightly shinier variety too, so it captures the light really nicely, and it looks like the blood is still wet. Even though he has a very large size now mask, it doesn't limit at all the articulation for Farmer Vincent easily. We'll get more into it more in a moment, but easily you can rotate the head, no problems whatsoever. For the rest of his outfit, of course, his classic plaid shirt, very bright also was in the movie, Large squares of red. You got little interruptions there of also smaller squares in white, and bold black lines run across, very cleanly printed. I don't know if these are hand printed or they've done them actually in the factory, but either way, like for something small and damaging as plaid can be one thing that it can either be like misprinted. For example, you might see squares kind of overlapping with one another, but it seems to be, I'm looking at from all the sides, looks like the plaid has been very nicely handled. Has his underneath shirt there, colored nicely there in gray. If we just move his arms out of the way. Now, he, again, has very limited articulation. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But his coverall's nicely molded and cast here. I'm guessing in blue plastic. Something I did want to say about the plastic that they chose here. The plastic is that kind of rubbery plastic. Like you can see by the way I'm squeezing of the legs, there's a little bit of give to it. It's that kind of quality of plastic, short of maybe like the pegs that I talked about earlier with the wrist where I was a little bit more worried about them from Michael Myers. But you know, all in all, like the plastic is that kind of quality of plastic that does not only remind me of the older days of movie maniacs, but it's that kind of also quality of plastic where I don't feel like I have to be all that worried as much that things are going to be very brittle and breaking on the figures. Like I think they chose, it's a really weird thing to be talking about when it comes to these figures, but I feel like they really have chose a good quality of plastic for these figures where I don't feel like there's a lot of things that potentially could break on them, if that makes any sense at all. Now, I mean, obviously there's a lot less moving parts here on the figure because again, like he's all basically just like from the neck down, just a staction figure. Even things like his boots, for example, there's no possessed posability just because again, like the sculpting of the leg drops so low to his boots, it'd be almost next to impossible to put in a posability or ankle pivots at all. What he does have, at least for possessed posability, is the head, the shoulders, and now the included wrists. Michael Myers, I have since started to move his wrists around, and they move a lot easier than what they did before. Farmer Vincent, though, right out of the packaging, it took very less convincing on my part. The wrists were very easy to remove very quickly after removing this guy. But for its posability, the head's going to be on a ball joint. So even though it's kind of hard to see where that's attached in place, the head does move still down this far. You can bring it up. You can also rock it back and forth. And the pig head, squeal, squeal, does rotate all the way around. Now, for again, his shoulders are only on hinge joints, so it still accommodates about a 90-degree angle hinge. So you can bring them out about that far. You can also as well take those arms and rotate them all the way around. If Farmer Vincent wants to take like a Sunday nap, I don't know if he would be necessarily napping with a pig mask on, but you could do that. You could do that if you want. And the figure does also have swivels in his wrists. And that's it. All the rest of the figure is basically just staction or statue, if you will. But I don't think it necessarily needs it either. I did say this when we were looking at the Michael Myers. I can actually, and just slide over Farmer Vincent, bring in the earlier looked at Michael Myers. I'm loving this line so far. I know right away, and I did say this with a review of Michael Myers, I think that Trick or Treat Studios knows exactly what kind of collector they're catering to when it comes to these new Scream Greats. They're gearing these collectibles towards collectors that were initially collecting in the 2000s, the movie maniacs, that don't necessarily need to be screaming to the rooftops, we want more articulation, we want more articulation. I think really at the end of it, we just want really nice looking figures. And while they may obviously be very much lacking in posability points, I think where they are getting and hitting those marks is they're checking off the boxes that made the original movie maniacs so charming. Just take a character, more the obscure even the better, and just giving us really good looking figures that have decent enough accessories. Farmer Vincent, of course, only comes included with his chainsaw, but I don't really think he necessarily needed anything else either. I mean, we're not obviously going to be getting the entire, farming area with little tiny heads embedded into the sand or the dirt. We don't need that. What we just need is a really obscure character introduced to us now as an 8-inch release. And again, Trick or Treat 2 is knocking it out of the park when it comes to these releases. I'm loving the Farmer Vincent. It's certainly one of those things where I never even thought I would ever say this in a review, that we got ourselves a Farmer Vincent figure, and boy, does he ever look fantastic. I hope that we also are going to be getting a lot more Scream Greats where they're more the obscure characters. Obviously, there's always going to be the interest, for me at least, and from the rest of the collectors, to be getting those big name characters, big name slashers like Michael Myers, but let's not overlook the obscure characters. Farmer Vincent was a good starting block. I mean, obviously, from the standpoint, this is Series 1. Wave 2, they have already announced we're going to be getting some more killer clowns from outer space. We're also getting a Jeepers Creepers creeper. I'm really looking forward to that. I think we're also getting a Wolfman, a London After Midnight, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and even a Phantom of the Opera. So they are seeming to be kind of picking and pulling characters from all across the spectrum of the silver screen, and I'm loving this line so far. Farmer Vincent, a good follow-up to the original Michael Myers, coming completely from two different types of horror films, but really liking the Scream Greats of what we're getting so far. You know, with all this talk of the 1980 somewhat obscure Motel Hell, I was thinking of other obscure slasher killers I'd like to see Trick or Treat Studios perhaps tackle for future Screen Great releases. Ones that came to my mind was Marty from Slaughter High. Imagine a varsity jacket with that jester mask that he was wearing. I was also thinking Cropsey from the original Burning from the 1981 film. That would be a really interesting character. And I was also thinking Maniac Cop. What other obscure slasher killers would you guys like to see get released in plastic form from the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios? Let me know down below in the comment section. Backtracking though back to Vincent, Farmer Vincent that is, wielding his chainsaw. You may have already noticed that I've got the figure attached onto a display stand. Although one wasn't included with the figure, he does have once again at least universally sized peg holes in the undersides of his feet, so you can easily use a display stand from another figure company. I might do that. I wasn't doing it at all with Michael Myers, but I'm going to do it I think with Vincent, just because again, like the way that his leg is bent, he has a kind of an already permanent leaning forward motion to him. Adding then the weight of the chainsaw on the front of it may be just enough for Farmer Vincent to take a tumble, and I certainly don't want that happening. So I've got the figure attached to a display stand as of right now. These guys, by the way, are available as of right now. Just went back and checked out Trick or Treat Studios website, and sure enough, Michael Myers is still in stock. Farmer Vincent is still in stock, and it seems to be also the case with the rest of the Screen Greats. Whether those stocks will last, though, time will only tell, because I'm sure once collectors start to realize how cool these characters are, we'll definitely be wanting to pick these up. If you are a fan of the original, say, movie Maniacs line and would like a kind of natural follow-up to that original toy line, definitely don't look any further than what we're getting here from the Screen Greats. We already now got the announcement that we're getting a Series 2. I hope, again, the sky's the limit. We're going to be getting future waves, and let's start dishing out some of those more obscure slasher killers. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you certainly would like to stick around for more, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and you're turning on as well the bell notification. If you're checking off the boxes, we've already now tackled the original 1978 Halloween and Michael Myers. We then followed it up with the 1980 Motel Hell and Farmer Vincent. What other Screen Greats will we be looking at in upcoming reviews? I will tell you, though, for the remaining of this week, we're going to bang through all of them. So every single day of this week, we will be looking at more of the Screen Greats, courtesy of the folks over at Trick or Treat Studios. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.